Hello, Future Bestsellers. We are super happy to see you. We were just talking backstage about how worried we are, and we're sending our good thoughts and wishes to Joey, who is a big member of this community. One of the first people I met when I started um, authortube. How long have you known Joey?
Just about as long, maybe a little bit longer since I was on authortube. I think just a
I
little
think
bit.
you were on. Yeah, you were on before I was. So yeah. So do you want to explain what's going on a little bit? She made it's not a she made a public Facebook post or someone made a public Facebook post on her behalf to talk about what's going on with her life. Do you want to
I haven't read the post, so I don't know what she's publicly claimed or not. We'll just say that she's, not doing that well. She's been in the hospital for a little while. She's home now and recovering, but there might be a bit of time for that recovery. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. She's had a medical emergency and it's going to take some recovery. So, but if you are friends with her on Facebook, you can check it out there. Whew, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, her 21st book just released this month. So I guess
And
if you
you're editing one of her books right now,
yes,
aren't you? Yeah.
for the past 3 years. So she was like my first and oldest client. So, but she may not be writing for the foreseeable future. So if you want to help, maybe pick up her book. Wish her well.
Yes, that is a great idea. Joey Paul, pick up a book. Wish her well. That's great. I think that's a fantastic way for us to support her. She's a lovely person, and she has, she's chronically ill and still manages to be a lot more prolific than a lot of the rest of us, myself included. I think sometimes.
21 books.
Uh,
That's a lot.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
her books are always interesting, and she speaks to a lot of different subjects about disability, about equality, and hers is a voice that should be heard. So
Great.
check her out.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I realize we just launched into this discussion about Joey Paul without having introduced ourselves. Even though many of the folks I can see are here are folks that we already know, but let's go ahead and start off. For those of you who are wondering where Michelle is, she is still working with the Australian client who can only meet right during the middle of our stream. So we will not have Michelle with us for another week or two, but then she will be back with us. But with us, as always, the lovely, talented, beautiful, and charming Robert Jones, aka the Story Detective. Yay! Tell us a little about you and your fine channel, Robert.
I think I've upgraded from last week. I am going. My channel is the Story Detective, where I separate the fact from the fiction in fiction writing and put it beneath my Sherlockian lens and present the results to the public so that they may write better stories.
Love it. I love how you're constantly like it's such a writer thing that you're like constantly tweaking your tagline, right? Like you're always just like, oh, keep doing it, just niggle it. Like that's just like, oh, you being an editor and tweaking your tagline every couple of that tracks. That tracks.
At least about once every 6 months to a year.
Yeah, exactly. Hi everybody. If you are new here, I'm Lisa Daly. I am an author of contemporary romance and nonfiction writing advice, and I have a brand new hockey romance that came out yesterday, which I was not going to mention, but Lainey already did. So thank you so much. Cold Feet is out. I don't know if I think I told you guys last week. I have been sick, not Joey sick, but I've been sick, and so this is going to be like the limp along book launch. I haven't really done anything. I sent out to my newsletter list last night, and yeah. So I really have not. How to fall down on your book launch is probably a good, but I just like it's out in the world. I'm fine with it. I'm feeling really good. It has gotten some really good reviews, so I'm like excited about that. That always makes you feel good. So anyway, it's out. Yay! Let's say hi to our friends. Avi was here first for the second week in a row. Very, very nice. Congratulations. Love that. Free range female is here. Very nice to see you guys. Lainey, thank you so much. You're so sweet. Uh, so Lainey and I were talking. This is kind of funny because Lainey knows this because yesterday I was like, hey, send me your address so I can send you a book because at the NINC conference, which I was unable to attend this year, but did go down for a bit to hang out with Lainey in the ocean. We were talking and I was telling her about how I was such a dork with my author store and that I have these like little blue boxes and how I wanted to like create an experience for the person when they open the box and it feels special, like a little gift that they bought for themselves. And she's like, I want that. And I said, well, when the Cold Feet comes out, I will send one to you in my special author coach box. And I'm very excited about that. So there you go. Daisy's here. Hello, Daisy. I might be more excited about that than anything else because I'm a dork. Very nice. So, we already answered that question. Good morning, Devin. Very, very nice. Mary's here. Hello. We're talking about Joey Paul, who is a fellow author tuber. You guys can see her videos. She's got a bunch of books out. I'm not sure if she's just on. Well, you probably know. Is she just on Amazon or is she wide?
I think she's elsewhere too, but most of her books are on Amazon or sold there, at least in this country, since she's in the UK.
Right. Very
But
nice.
she is an award-winning author in the UK, and she's published 21 books. Her 21st one just came out this month. Joey's also been a client for the past 3 years. So, as I said, she writes an interesting story, definitely always interesting, and her subject matter is pretty diverse. I think she's definitely worth checking out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Plus she's one of us, she's she's been a big part of a really welcoming person. She was one of the first people that reached out when I was new, just to say hi and welcome to the community. So I think that's pretty cool. Avi says, I almost didn't recognize you out of your costume, Sir Sherlock Fancy Pants.
I'm always in costume. To me, style.
That's true. He's always got his Sherlockian telescope. No, microscope. Wait, what?
Where's my Sherlockian lens? Actually, it's back there.
Sherlockian lens. Sorry, my brain got sidetracked for a second. He's always got his Sherlockian lens right with him, just in case he needs to do a quick analysis. Matthew, hello. We are super, super glad to see you. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. It's so this is kind of funny because it's funny that we were talking about Lainey earlier. And Mary also knows this about me. Fake fiance is like my favorite trope, my favorite romance trope. And I don't know, and I had never written one. And I was sitting with Lainey after the RAM conference. We had stayed on for an extra day to sort of do a download and regroup with a bunch of other people in another little group. And we started talking about it and I was like, why have I never done it? So it's like one of those bucket list items. I have finally written a fake fiance romance and I love it. Thank you. Oh, Avi, I'm quoting you on that. That's awesome. Awesome. Good morning. All right. So please tell us how to pronounce your name. Is it NUL? I feel like you've been on here before because when I said that out loud, I thought, oh, that sounds familiar. So I feel like you've been with us before. If that's accurate, welcome back.
A YouTuber for a while. Yeah, pretty sure it's NUL.
I think so too. So anyway, glad to have you back. We're super glad. Thank you, Avi. All right, you guys, let's get started with our first 5-minute warm-up sprint. When we come back, we'll talk about what we're working on today. You guys can feel free to drop it in the chat. For now, let me make this big. Oh, actually, let me make that small. It'd be helpful if I shared the screen first, wouldn't it? Sorry, guys. I'm the same person I am every single day when I can't manage this. Okay, here we go. I was going to apologize, but I think we all know it's just me. So we're just going to live with that. Okay. Woohoo. 5 minutes up on the clock, and let's get started with our very first warm-up sprint, starting in 3, 2, and get your treat, all that good stuff. All right, we are back. So, what is everybody going to be working on today? Let us know in the chat. What are you working on today, Robert?
I'm still working on my little October story. I'm encouraged enough to finish this before I get back to my bigger manuscript. I've got a few notes that I took yesterday so I can pick up where I left off, and I'm just reading the last couple of pages.
All right, that sounds fantastic. I am taking some graphics that I previously created for the launch of Cold Feet, and I'm going to do some ad testing, which I should have started weeks and weeks ago, but have not done. So I'm going to throw some up there and see how it goes. Just do a little testing. So that's what I'm going to do today. Although we'll see if I'm able to do that at the same time. I'm only going to spend like 20 minutes on it. All right. So Lainey says I need to keep on trucking on revisions for my own hockey romance. I'm excited to read that. Avi's doing some client work today, but thinking about what I'm going to write later for my vampire K-pop romance. I'm so excited about that. I'm like all over it. Working on trying to focus. I can so feel that. I'm with you. All right. The quiet type is working on a body snatching horror. Where's the horror geek today? He would love that. That is awesome. I know, right? I think he's in there. I'm not sure. He might be just lurking today. It's hard to tell sometimes. So, wow, I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay. So, I have, as you know, always been a person who loves planners. But I've had a harder time, like I'm so much more dependent on my electronic schedule because of how I schedule my book coaching clients. And I'm trying to figure out how to there's some tactile part of me that still loves paper. And so I'm trying to figure out how to make that work without constantly having to update my paper schedule based on whatever is on my electronic calendar that day. And because, if you use a calendar app, people can go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, so I'll just reschedule myself for next Wednesday. So it changes. Like I'm in a situation now where I literally look at night and first thing in the morning at my calendar to see what I have for the next day.
Oops, Lisa disappeared. So yeah, the body snatcher thing, that's kind of a cool one in my book, from the original to The Thing from John Carpenter, which I just watched before Halloween, as usual. And my horror story today is actually kind of a tribute to early horror with Stephen King, John Carpenter, and maybe a little George Romero, where a couple of
investigators
check out what looks like a child abduction and end up getting trapped in this house with a couple of locals, and there's something outside that's ready to do horrible things. It was based on, probably from watching those movies, a dream I had like years ago, and the dream kind of cut off, and scenes about it had that feel. And a couple of years ago, I started putting it into a draft, and then I did a second draft last October, and then this October, I'm looking at it thinking, this really isn't too bad. I'm going to finish this thing.
I love that. So, love this. Mary says the body snatcher snatch Lisa, and it's not a Lisa live stream. Leslie, that's true, and I will confess that was totally user error. It was the swipey thing again. It gets me every time. Love that. So let's go back. Lainey says, I hate paper planners, but my brain is so ... impacted by menopause. I'm very excited for my Inez Johnson planner to arrive. Inez is one of my clients. I do not have the planner yet, and I need to get it. The planner is for it's connected to her book, Page Turner Pacing, which is the book we worked on together. It's such a brilliant system, and it's about she has experience in episodic television, so her whole thing is about first getting you to write the draft of your book in 21 days, which is remarkable. And she is a major best-selling author, so like the fact that she's letting you see her little system behind the scenes is super cool, but it's so fantastic. So I'm super excited about the workbook. Maybe that will help me with my planning issues. Yes, body snatcher snatched me. Avi says watched all 3 cutting edge movies last week and thought of your books. So I love that. Hockey player, figure skater. The first book in the series was called The Cutting Edge, was as a little nod, which is about a hockey player in it, and a figure skater. Love, 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 love those movies. I especially love the first one. I didn't like, was it the second one was okay, and then the third one I liked a little less, or maybe it was the swap, but the first one I could watch every year and love it. Let's see. The Quiet Type says, my story is about a woman who moves in with her boyfriend after dating for a couple months, but right before he moves in, he's taken over by a monster, and it's told from the monster's POV.
That could be interesting.
It could be really interesting. You
is
are
he his own hockey romance?
You are that, right? I love that. I love that. I also love the Quiet Type because, like, what do they say when, oh, he was the Quiet Type. I love your whole thing you've got going on there today. Look who's here. Hello, Danielle. Super glad to see you today. See, free range female totally agrees. Sounds fantastic. Mary is working on a book that has had 1 million titles so far. I can confirm this. I thought it might be about the final chapters of life, but now I think it might be about love. New working title, Happy Endings and Ever Afters. All right. I like it. I like it a lot. Avi says, same. The first movies has all the 80s nostalgia we 80s kids love. Yes, true. It's so funny, too. I cannot remember. What was her name? Maura Tierney, the woman who played the figure skater in The Cutting Edge. I should know her name. I've seen that movie 1,000 times. I have liked her in many different things, but that is my favorite role of her because she just really leans into her evilness at the beginning of the movie. Well, and midway through, too. And she's a really interesting, fun character, especially for that kind of 80s movie. Like, she brings a lot to it. Anyway, let's do some writing sprints. Sound good? All right. Let us know if you haven't already what you are going to be working on today. I'm going to do the first round just to try and set up some Facebook ads, and I'm going to do some writing after that, but I haven't figured out what I'm going to work on yet. So I'll let you know. Warwick and DB Sweeney. DB Sweeney obviously was such an 80s icon. He was such an 80s icon. He was in so many of those sort of teen/YA kind of movies that the 80s were so famous for. And I always have such a fondness for him. And I think it, like, even years later when he would do like a guest spot on House or whatever, I always have this real fondness for him. And I'm pretty sure it's because of The Cutting Edge. So. Danielle Lynn is working on trying to finish chapter 3 and outline chapter 4. Free range female. I love 80s and 90s, right? They do have great banter. Did you really? Oh my God, I love that. I love that. Oh, right. I love Topic. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. Love that. You know what's so funny, Devin? I actually thought about sort of putting that little, like, just making some alternate Topic joke. And I thought with the title being the same, that I didn't want it to feel like I was trying to, copy the movie, and it's a completely different plot. But I thought about adding Topic in there because it was such a, like, sort of an iconic thing in the movie. So anyway. All right. now that I'm like, all swoony over The Cutting Edge, which again, I have always loved. Let's do a writing sprint, shall we? Let's get some work done. Let's make some swoons of our own, or scares, or other things. All right, here we go. Okay, we're going to write as fast as we can. We're not going to think about editing. We're just going to get those words out on the page. Here we go, everybody. Starting in 3. What? We are back. Let me get rid of this. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. How'd everybody do on our very first sprint for the day? Let us know in the chat how you got. I got almost through the process of putting up an ad, so I'm glad about that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes for the next one. I abandoned my ads after Facebook. Like, I'd done months of testing for nonfiction books, and I was doing pretty well with my ads. And then Facebook changed the algorithm, which a lot of authors are really struggling with this right now because they depend on Facebook ads to drive traffic to either Amazon or their own direct stores or other booksellers. And so my ads went from like going gangbusters and really working to not working at all after Facebook changed their algorithm, where they basically took out all the like targeting. So instead of being able to target people who are interested in like writing books, I could only target people who are just interested in books, which the group of people interested in books is like this, the people who want to write a book is like this. And so it like, and they say that the algorithm will find the audience, but I know so many authors who are really struggling with that right now. So if you are one of them, please let us know in the chat. Free range female says that was fast. I got 272 words. Love that. I'm sorry. I'm still getting over this. Do you still have the signed photo of DB Sweeney? I'm just curious if it's tucked away in a box in the closet somewhere. I would love to see that. I think that's something that you should do a post on when you release your next hockey romance.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Like,
I would have something like that just because it's kind of like a memento of and somebody was actually signing these photos and handing them out to people.
back in the day. Lainey says, alas, I do not. It might be at my dad's house somewhere. I will report back after Thanksgiving. Good, because we need to know. Inquiring minds need to know.
Holiday Quest, that's kind of romantic in its own right.
It really is. It really is. The Quiet Type says, I forgot to track how much I wrote, but it looks like a lot. I'll take that. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Awesome. Super, super great. So let's do the news, shall we? I don't have like a lot of stuff today, but we do have some. So here we go. It's my favorite time of the day, the time when we play the stinger. I love it so much. I'm such a dork. Okay, so not a lot of big news. And actually, the really funny thing is we had sort of mentioned, not sort of, we mentioned this last week, and it's becoming a bigger shakeup. So the Trump administration decided that they wanted to remove Shira Perlmutter, who is the director of the U.S. Copyright Office, after her office pushed back on how generative AI, large language models like ChatGPT and Meta's AI, all of that, like, there are a bunch of different companies doing that now. Her office pushed back on how generative AI uses copyrighted works. And now a U.S. appeals court has set aside her removal and emphasized a potential separation of powers issue in their response, which I think is kind of a cool thing, because copyright policy is now moving front and center as far as the author economy, especially as these AI models continue to consume all of our backlists. So make sure that you are reviewing your book rights and contracts, especially if you're traditionally published, especially regarding any sort of AI usage or data scraping, because I have a terrible feeling that publishers are going to at some point make a deal, and it's going to hurt authors. But I just have this, like, I don't know. And they're already exploring it. So I just feel like just be cautious about what you're signing, which is good advice as always. But the other thing is, please, please, please make sure to register your copyrights for your books, which brings me to my next thing. So many authors left out of the Anthropic settlement because they have not registered their copyrights. As much as we have all been told repeatedly over the years, and I have said this myself, they always say that your book is copyrighted as soon as you put fingers to keyboard or pen to paper. The reason for copywriting is that for formally copywriting your work is because in the event of a legal challenge, you can prove it's your work. And that is the problem.
That was a
Because
huge thing. I mean, when I first started out, everybody was talking about that.
yeah,
And my mentor was like, that's the first thing you need to do is copyright your work because, it's going to protect you from all kinds of problems. And this is a perfect example. But now we have like the internet and everybody's like, oh, you can just do this and you can just do that. And the
right.
advice on the internet is terrible. Aside from our show.
Aside from ours, of course. Well, and that's the thing, right? So technically it's copyrighted. And if you are wealthy enough to have an attorney go in there into the Anthropic class action suit and carve out your own thing saying nope, theft is theft, and perhaps there will be another group that does that. I mean, maybe there's a second lawsuit for people who registered their ISBNs, or people who wrote their books with a small publisher that did not register their copyrights, which I'm hearing so many stories about that right now. You think if you sign with a trad publisher or even a hybrid publisher that they're going to do what they say and register your copyright, but it has turned out that a lot of people have learned the hard way that their copyrights were not registered. So perhaps, maybe there's a second group of indie authors, especially off a fresh new settlement, that can go through and make this right. But in the meantime, the thing that we have always said is that, yes, I've heard from many attorneys on the sort of technicality of the second that you put fingers to keyboard or pen to paper that your work is copyrighted. However, if you want to be able to prove it in court, it's important to register it with the Copyright Office. So
not only that, but I've known a couple of people, and we've all heard stories about people's work getting taken and somebody else putting their name on their book and trying to pass it off as their own. And those people, from what I understand, had to show Amazon their copyright notices and prove that it was their book. If you didn't have that, then what happens? Somebody else is going to prove with your book. You're going to have to prove it's yours.
Yeah. It's just register with the Copyright Office. I think that's going to be your best protection. And then one last item that we have, Spotify has launched something it's calling Audiobook Selects. And this is a program to source indie audio titles, which I think is kind of awesome. It's designed to publish indie author audiobooks directly under Spotify's label. The program's very first titles, I think there are 16 of them, debuted on November 4. And I think this is fantastic because it gives indie authors another new platform branded route into audio distribution and does not leave us beholden entirely to ACX, which a lot of authors feel like they are, because you get a better royalty rate if you're exclusive, but it feels a little predatory in many ways. And I think more competition is only helpful. I like the fact that Spotify is going hard into the audiobook market. That's something that we should, I'll think about if we can. So news from you, Robert, anything else exciting happening that you wanted to talk about today?
I have a problem that I'm just resolving. If that makes sense, we could work some craft solutions into the news. I had a scene that I'm looking at from my previous draft where I had to work in some information that was like pre-story stuff. Your agent's going into the field. Obviously, there's paperwork and there's cases and there's stuff that they need to know. So my previous draft, I had a lot of information and not that much to hold it together. And I'm like, what the heck is going to keep this from being boring and just not a bunch of information coming through?
Right. Not just like a information dump. We don't want that.
Fortunately, I already had some points of disagreement between the two characters. The one guy made a remark about the other guy's wife at last year's Christmas party. So I decided to exacerbate that and make a little tension between the characters. So the guy who's the lead investigator is going to be lording it over this guy. So the information isn't just information. He's using it to test the guy, and you need to have answers, and you need to be quick on your feet and lord it over the guy. And it makes it more interesting because now you have that little tension. And
you have a little extra tension, right?
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great solution, to inject a little tension. And I think it's really important. One of the things that you sort of just casually dropped into the conversation was about this idea of not wanting to do this like narrative information dump.
Mhm.
And we recently reviewed a book that that was all about the information dump, and it really hurt them in their reviews because people don't want to read what feels like a resume, or like let me catch you up really fast because we're in the middle of the season, right. Just give them the information. And if you're writing it, just give them the information that they need to understand the story. They don't always necessarily, like, even if you know the backstory, and if it's important to the story, to your story, obviously put it in. But sometimes it's just important for the author to know, and that the reader doesn't really need the information depending on how detailed it is.
Mhm.
I don't know if I kind of went in this like meandery, but you know what I'm saying. I hope you guys all know what I'm saying.
Try not to put that in the first chapter. That's kind of rule one. You don't want anything that pulls you out of the core story before you get the reader involved. And then when you do put that information, even if it's interesting information, which mine sort of is, but it's still taking you out of the story to give you that information. You have to find a way like this to keep it in the present, keep the story flowing, and keep a little bit of tension and interest going on. Otherwise, you'll still get lost and pulled out of the story and the information.
I totally agree. This is why you are the story detective. I will say my very favorite way to start a story is in media res, which is basically where you dump the reader into a story already in progress.
Yes.
So like in my first novel, 15 Minutes of Shame, I open on my main character like squatting behind a dumpster in her pajamas at a gas and go, like spying on her husband because he's supposed to be at the airport, but he's not. So, right. But it's fun because then instantly you're like, why is this person in her pajamas squatting behind a dumpster? Like that, that's like from the first couple of lines. And I think it can be a really effective way to get readers into the story immediately. But also it forces you to only put in backstory when the reader will need it to understand the context of what's going on.
Yes,
so,
definitely.
That's
because
one of my
you worked into the story somehow in some way. And that is a clever way of putting in a flashback. If you have people like having an argument and they're talking about information, you slip it in as part of the conversation. So you're not pulling readers into exactly a flashback, but it's still technically a flashback.
Yeah.
There's worse ways to do it.
There's always a worse way to do it, for sure. And there's always a better way to do it. And that is the challenge of being a writer or an author, is that the book could always be better, but also it could always be worse.
Yes, so and you segue into a flashback. You want to have it happening in the same tense as your core story. You don't want to make it sound like it's happening. And one thing that people do a lot of is put the word had. He had done this. And I read one guy that was like, he had a copy of this book, or, doubling up on it. The word had makes it sound like it's already been done. And that puts past tense even more into the past. So you want to have it in the same tense, present it like it's happening on screen or on center stage, happening before the reader's eyes. Give them something visual. Don't just explain the past. Make it happen in an immediate scene.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's really easy to distinguish flashbacks with italics, or a special sort of, with an ornamental break and a date, just something to get the reader in it, but without taking them out of the story. Mm-hmm. Daisy says, always exceptions to every rule. True. I remember reading a Naomi Novik book and really enjoying a section before stopping and saying, this is an info dump that I'm eating. There are some people who could do it well. However, if that was the entire book, like that was the entire book. One of my clients has a section in her book about a specific paint color, which typically we'd say we don't want to write about paint drying, right? Because typically not interesting. But because there was so much of an emotional charge on this particular paint color, because it matched the color of her mentor and grandmother's eyes. It was a color like that the antagonist in the story had mocked. That there were reasons it had this emotional pull for the protagonist, and it was sort of dotted throughout the story where you would see this resolute blue show up over and over again. And it ended up being this really nice feature. But it's also something like, there's something that I learned in advertising a million years ago, and that one of my professors taught me, and it was that if you emphasize everything, you get nothing across. And so it's okay to talk about a paint color if you're not talking about every single detail of everything, because that is a way that readers can get lost in the story and not actually be able to find the story for all the stuff. Because there's some part of your brain going, is this important? Is this important? Is this important?
Mm-hmm.
So it reminds me of an ex of mine who would give directions, and he'd say, okay, you're going to drive down this road. You're going to see a mailbox, and then you're going to see, and I'm thinking, is the mailbox important? Do I turn at the mailbox? He's like trying to just give road marks away, but it ended up being so many things that I would always get lost. Of course, this was before GPS. I would always get lost because I'd be like, wait, there's the mailbox. Was the mailbox important? And the mailbox was not important. It was just a lot of crap that was not important. He should have just said, go down there and turn right when you hit the 7-Eleven. But he wouldn't. He'd tell you, there's a flower bed, there's a mailbox, there's this one guy who's outside sometimes. So yeah, anyway.
It's
Okay.
always interesting and make it seem like it's coming from the character's brain. I remember reading a book that, if you just said the flower was yellow, I mean, that's very ordinary. And there's a woman that's tending her garden and she's thinking about it. So the writer's not saying she has all these yellow flowers. She's thinking about her art teacher in college saying, what color is this? Oh, it's yellow. Go on. What's the next? Oh, it's mustard. It's this. It's different kinds of yellow. There's always a yellower yellow.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, The Quiet Time. Thank you so much. I so love your handle. Like, it's such a great one, especially for somebody writing horror. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, let's get going and do our next 20-minute writing sprint. Here we go. I'm going to try and finish that ad, and then I'm going to get to some writing. I really need to start working on the outline for Hockey Romance #3. So I'm hoping to get a little of that in today. Okay, here we go. Starting in 3, 2, 1. We'll be back in 20 minutes. All right, we are back. Very nice. How'd everybody do on that last one?
Good.
Wait. To be fair, it is not the horror geek who gives bad directions. he actually he actually gives pretty good directions. Actually, he mostly drives me everywhere because he's a very nice guy. We like to be together. Anyway, so yeah, but that is really kind of that is so how he would do it too, right? Yeah, love that. All right, fantastic. So I had multiple questions this week about what kind of things you should put in your newsletter. So, do we want to talk a little bit about if you guys have another question we want to talk about, we can totally do that. But if you would like to talk about newsletters, we can talk about that. The first thing we should talk about is that you should definitely have one. So if you don't, I'm a newsletter obsessive. If you don't have a newsletter, you should definitely get that. All right. So the quiet type would love to hear more about newsletters. Well, that's why we're here. Okay. So just some newsletter basics. First of all, you can build your newsletter by putting some back matter into your books, meaning those, when I say back matter, I'm not talking about the back cover copy. I'm talking about good stuff back here, like about the author or, oh my God, I love this guy. Okay. I bought this book called Fans First, which is written by the author or by the owner of the Savannah Bananas, which I had never heard of previously. It's a baseball team that does all kinds of crazy stuff with like an all grandma dance team. But Lainey recommended this book to me, and I'm fascinated. The guy just does some incredible stuff. But I just realized in his back matter, he has something called the Banana Phone, and it literally says, to hear the best hold music ever, call us at Bananas Global Headquarters with a number. Or you can text the owner and tell him how much you love the book. That is deep personal contact between you and the author.
I just saw something, excuse me, on YouTube. I was watching a guy talk about something or other. I don't remember the subject as much as the end of his video because he related it all to a little 10-minute seminar he said he had about changing people's attitude towards making money. And he says there's a link in the description, but he also put a QR code right on the screen. And I said, okay, let's see where he's going with this. When I clicked the QR code, his email registered came up, and I thought, that's clever.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that. I will often, especially my nonfiction books, and I'm working on doing more QR codes in my fiction, although I'm pretty sure Cold Feet has one. If you want to see, if you are interested in seeing with that specific book, it's in stores now. Okay. I'm just teasing. So do I have a copy of it? I don't have one in here. So in the back of How to Write a Self-Help Book, I have a QR code that takes you to a place where you can get all of the goodies that I have, all the like downloadable goodies and extras that I have promised you. So you get it in one place, you sign up, and then I send you a big, beautiful email that tells you that I send you an email that gives you all of the various resources, but it also says, hey, if you have questions, come on over to the live stream, or here's a place where you can get this kind of information. And people are really positive about it because it's giving them, some extra goodies. I did back when I wrote The Cutting Edge, which is the first in my hockey romance series. I had an offer in the back matter where people could sign up to read like the big sort of romance scene from. Oh, actually, it wasn't in Cold Feet. Or in Cutting Edge. It was in 15 Minutes of Shame. I added an extra scene that I wrote from the other character's point of view. So if you wanted to know what Holt was thinking through the big romance scene, that you could get that as well. And it was really, right, it was really popular with readers, especially romance readers. But there are all kinds of things that you can put inside your book. He does a really nice job here with back matter. You get a picture of the bananas here. And then you get all kinds of options to join the fan movement. So you've got all their socials. He mentions there's a bananas mini documentary. And I love that because what it does is keep that conversation going long after they have read the book, because you're sending out information to them and just kind of keeping them in your ecosystem. So that's the first thing, is that you want to start collecting people on your email list, whether you're giving them something for free or giving them a free story or just saying, hey, if you want to hear more about this, here's a great place.
So you could have a reader magnet or a swag magnet or even a video magnet. You can just expand that little theory to anything you want.
That's exactly true. That's exactly true. So the question that I get a lot is, what should you actually put in your newsletter? And I think a really good rule for that is to do sort of an 80-20 thing, where about 20% of it is about you saying, please buy my book. And the other 80% of it is fulfilling the needs of and wants and joys of the readers on your list. So obviously I can't write a brand new book every week or every other week. But what I can do is recommend to my readers the kind of books that I'm enjoying, the kinds of books that I think they're going to like because they like mine. And so it feels to that like we're still building a relationship. I'm helping other author friends, but or just other author who may not be friends. And that kind of content tends to do really well. So when you're doing newsletter swaps, which is another thing you can do, you guys familiar with that? Newsletter swap is when I say, hey, Lainey, I've got a new hockey romance coming out, and I know you do too. Do you want to swap? And so what would happen is I would talk about Lainey's awesome new hockey romance in my newsletter, and she would talk about her awesome wait, would I say that? She would talk about my new romance in her newsletter. I would talk about her new romance in my newsletter, because our audiences, at least for that particular type of book, would be pretty similar. And it's a great way to get some more people. And maybe I offer them a little reader magnet, or maybe we just ask them to go out and buy the book. But either way, it's a good way to build your list. So
I just have a little marketing tip that was similar to that I put up on Instagram this morning, because I saw this guy. It was Richard Holland.
That guy. No, I'm kidding.
Part of the YouTube and authortube community, and he did like a little reel, and he's just sitting there like everybody else, typing on his computer, looking busy and putting words on the screen saying, so this is what everybody else is doing, and I hate doing this. And I thought, yeah, that part of it is kind of funny, but they kind of do want to see who you are. But I think home marketing, you're marketing yourself as much as your book, and you can't just be holding up your book and showing pictures of it, because then you look just like a big sales stream.
Right.
So you can talk about other things you do, like, okay, I like Star Wars, and that my love of Star Wars brought me to write this great science fiction novel. It all kind of connects. And even if you're a shy person, you still have a personality, because it doesn't hurt to be nice. And you can relate that to almost anything, because people are going to come just like you find your writing tribe. You find your readers the same way. They connect with those little things that you like, and then they pull instead of scrolling on the feed and say, okay, this is interesting. It's not something I'm seeing everywhere else. So that's the key. I mean, if you're interesting and you're showing something that you're having fun with, then other people will have fun with it too. If you're just typing on your computer and flashing words on a screen and everybody else is doing it, what separates you from them?
That is excellent advice. And it's so true, right? Because if you are writing, let's say I'm writing hockey romance, I love contemporary romance, and I love hockey boys, and I love hockey. And many of my readers like one or all three of those things. So I have some hockey romance readers that are more there for the hockey. I have most of them are more there for contemporary romance, but they don't mind if it's about hockey. And so, I'm sorry, I just read that. But yeah, I think that's really a great thing. And then the other thing you could do with your newsletter that we haven't talked about is if you're doing like a podcast or or I'm doing an event where I'm speaking at Ringling College next week, and the library did like a little interview with me and did kind of a like, here's what Lisa did. Actually, the funny thing is they asked me what I did in a day, and I gave them just like a random Wednesday, so the stream is included in what I did for the day. But that's something that I can like share when I do my newsletter next week. That's something that I can share with them, like, hey, I'm going to be in Sarasota talking about how to write a romance book, and here's what the library is doing. And so you can just make your little ecosystem about the things you love, the things your fans love. You'll build a deeper relationship with them. They feel some connection to your work because they know what you're thinking about as you're writing. And there are lots of ways to do that. If you're thinking about how, and this is what I love about this book, if you're and what I love about Taylor Swift, right? She's always kind of thinking of all these ways to bring a little happiness or joy or humor to her fans, just like Jesse Cole, owner of the Savannah Bananas, which Lainey Davis and I have a friend named Deanna who writes books about brothers who own a deli, who own, I think they own a chain of delis, as I recall. It's been a little while since I read them. But the first book, it's all the books are named after pickles. And when I got this book, I was like, oh, you could totally do a banana book, but I don't think you could. Anyway, so yeah. All right. Okay, so good. Cameron asks, is your book How to Write a Book in 14 Days still available to buy as an ebook? I've tried 3 platforms. Oh, let me look on that. Yes, I will drop a link in the chat as soon as we go to our next sprint, which will be in about 1 minute. Yay. All right, fantastic. Okay. All right. If you have questions specifically about newsletter, because I feel like when I said, oh, I do love newsletters and I have lots and lots of advice on them, despite the fact that I've been really bad the last several months because of aforementioned illness. And so if you have questions that I did not cover, or I was too when I covered, then just ask, and I apologize for not laying that out in a more linear way. Okay, ready for our last sprint of the day? I know I am.
I am. And you're giving me thoughts on how to translate this newsletter thing into social media, because I've been trying to figure out ways to make that more interesting myself, because I've also been a little lax lately.
I know. This is the thing. Like, I feel like the newsletter is the thing that does like, if you're only going to do one marketing thing in your whole life, do a newsletter, because it's such a powerful tool and you control it, versus like social media where you don't control it. And it's totally okay to have your newsletter readers, going back and forth, in your sort of ecosystem on your social media or your podcast or your whatever you're doing. But make sure that you have the contact information for those people. Make sure that you can reach them directly, so that when you have a new book coming out, you don't have to rely exclusively on Facebook ads or begging for reviews or a million other things, right? You have a push button and people will buy your books. And that is always a lovely, lovely thing. All right, here we go, everybody. We're going to make this last one count, starting in 3, 2. I'm muted. StreamYard is getting smarter, though. It did let me know that, so that's good. Anyway, all I was saying was, all right, here we go. I hope everybody had a mic. I have a little mic dysfunction here. Okay, so sorry, it just like went. You know how that happens sometimes. Okay, not you personally. Sorry. This has devolved into something horrible. I'm just going to go a different way. Oh, look, Cameron, you're welcome. I'm so glad I saw. So let me just tell you guys, I have this awesome little thing on my phone where every time there's a sale in my store, it goes cha-ching. Yay, it's happening. All right. So I'm super, super excited about today's sprint. I got a ton done. How did you do?
Well, I finished a chapter and moved on to another one, so that's pretty good.
That is good. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. So glad. Let us know in the chat, you guys. How did you do in the how did you guys do with our writing sprints today? Please let us know. Michelle will be back with us hopefully next week. Before we go, let's go ahead and quickly do our outro since we're a couple minutes over today. Robert, tell the fine folks all about you and your awesome channel.
Okay, now I need to remember my new tagline. My channel is The Story Detective, where I separate the facts from the fiction in the craft of fiction. You see, I kind of blundered it already. And put it under my Sherlockian lens and deliver the results to the readers to make your job in writing books easier. Or something like that.
Or something like that. Excellent. I love how I'm like dumping out 2 seconds before we go. Thank you so much, Robert. As always, as I said, Michelle, I think will either be back with us next week or the week after as she gets the outline for this client wrapped up. I'm Lisa Daly. I have a new book out this week called Cold Feet. If you love fake fiance contemporary romances, it's a good one to check out. And if you want to write a book you're super proud of and get it published, this is the channel for you. So I hope you'll come back, check out the backlist of videos, and everything's all good. There you go. Obviously. No. Devin, thank you so much. Everybody, stay safe. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Take care, everybody. Keep those